Good afternoon. Today we're going to show you how to debone a chicken. This is one of the assessments that will take place at level 2, and for that assessment you have to cook a chicken breast, serve it with a potato dish and a sauce. So the first part of the assessment will be breaking the chicken down into all its various parts, and obviously the second part will be the cooking and making the sauce. To start off with though, I'm going to talk you through our chicken here. And if you look at it very carefully, it's almost a similar shape to a human being. So just like us, it's got 2 breasts and 2 legs. It's got wings, we'd obviously call these arms. And its legs are broken down into similar to ours, except this one's got a thigh, just like us, and this part's called a drumstick rather than sort of a shin area. On its bottom of its legs, it would have feet, okay, so they've been cut off. And also this part here, just on its neck bone, that would be where its head would sit obviously, and it'd walk around the farmyard, something like that, pecking away. Okay? So first thing we do when we receive our chicken, we make sure that it's all intact, we make sure it's of good quality, so there's no particularly bad smells to it, all the skin's not been broken, so we look around it really carefully. And what we want to do as well is remove some of these hairs or parts of feathers that are just sort of on the outside of the bird. Really straightforward way of doing it. We can either pluck them out or we can just blowtorch them so that they burn away. It's just like the smell of our hair when it's burning, and it just, we get off as many as we can with the blowtorch. We've burned off all the hairs, feathers, we can start to debone the chicken. And the first part is I'm going to take off the wings, but I'm going to cut it at this joint here, which would be sort of similar to our sort of elbow joint. Cut it right at the tip, and the knife should go through quite easily. You've got to go through the joint. Exactly the same on the other side. You need to locate the joint just with your finger, you'll be able to feel the joint, and just cutting really easily through it. Okay, so that's the wings off. Next we're going to take off the legs, so you can see that they're attached to the body with this flap of skin. We're going to cut that down, just really carefully trimming down, and then you can see right into the pelvis of the bird as well. So we're going to stick one thumb just into the pelvis, and then just twisting really carefully with the hand, we're going to dislocate the hip like so. Okay. Then we turn the bird over onto its back, and I'm just going to use a meat boning knife now at this point, just making sure that we're cutting right around, really carefully, and just cutting through the joint so the leg comes away completely. So exactly the same process on the other side, really nice cut through the skin, and you can see the leg starts to flap around, thumb into the joint, and as before, just dislocate that part of the hip there. We're just cutting round, cut the leg off completely. So then we're left with the breast, which is attached to this part of the carcass here. That part there, we're simply going to snap it, and then just with the knife, just cut through. And that's really good, really flavoursome for use with stock. That leaves us with this part of the bird, which is called the crown. So it's just the breasts attached to the bones underneath. And we're looking for a very fine white line which runs right down the centre here. And we're going to cut either side of that line to remove the breasts. So following the line really carefully, just using the tip of the knife just to help the meat away from the bone. Get as much meat off as you possibly can, trying not to waste any at all. All we're doing is just scraping the meat away, just really good strokes with the knife. As you can see, there's no panic, no fuss, and then it ends up with us cutting through this joint here, which is almost like the shoulder joint on a person, just to remove the whole breast. Then we repeat the process exactly the same on the other side, just cutting the other side of the breastbone, and again, really carefully, just cutting away, so that we're scraping the meat away from the bone. And again, that ultimately comes down to just cutting through that little joint at the bottom, just through the joint carefully, and then just a final cut through the last pieces of skin, just to remove both breasts. And I'll just arrange that neatly on the tray then so it looks a little bit better. So we end up coming away with 2 breasts, 2 legs, 2 wings. We've got these other parts here, which is the, sort of all the skeleton, and they're really good for flavour for stock. So now we're going to trim up these pieces of chicken so that they look a little bit neater. With the chicken breast, we're just going to make sure that the skin fits really nicely over the meat. Any excess pieces, like maybe this piece here, they can come off into our waste bowl. And we're just making sure it looks really neat and tidy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to French trim this. So French trimming is where we just expose the bone slightly, and I'm just going to cut and scrape away the bone, and I'll flip the breast over and do exactly the same on the other side, so that we're exposing the bone really nice and neat. And then hard with the knife, just through that little bit of knuckle there, just so that we just expose that bone, and it just makes it look a little bit neater. So the next part is to separate the thigh and the drumstick, and we start that by just removing this ankle part here, and then we turn over the chicken, and if you can look really carefully, there's some very fine white lines that come together to form almost like a cross. They're going to be where we use our knife to cut through. So if I cut through that white line there, it goes through very easily through a joint and separates thigh and drumstick. And I'll show you that again because I was quite quick with it. Off with the ankle and then turn it over, and there's the white line. Look, it's there. We're going to follow that line, and if we cut through that, it goes straight through the joint, separating our thigh and drumstick.